Imagine a sound so loud it was picked up by sensors thousands of miles apart, yet its exact origin remains a deep-sea whisper. Picture American anti-aircraft guns firing over 1,400 shells into the night sky above a major city at targets that were never officially identified. What if tens of thousands of people on a rainy day suddenly saw the sun seemingly detach itself from the sky, spin and change colors before their very eyes? Or consider a colossal explosion in remote Siberia that flattened an area larger than a major city, wiping out 80 million trees, yet left no impact crater for scientists to study. These aren't plots from movies. These are documented events from our history that continue to baffle and intrigue. Get ready to explore some of the most curious unexplained sounds and lights that have left experts scratching their heads and the rest of us wondering. Number 12. The Nuremberg Sky Battle of 1561. Picture this. It's dawn on April 14th, 1561, in Nuremberg, Germany. People are starting their day. Then, according to a news report from the time, something truly extraordinary happened in the sky. This wasn't just a fleeting glimpse of something odd. It was a full-blown aerial spectacle that reportedly lasted for about an hour. A broadsheet, which was like a newspaper of that era, printed by a man named Hans Glaser, described the event in detail. This document still exists today. It tells of a terrifying sight witnessed by many people in Nuremberg. They saw what appeared to be a battle unfolding above them. The broadsheet describes objects of various shapes: spheres, crosses, tubes, and rod-like structures. It said these objects darted back and forth, appearing to fight amongst themselves. Imagine looking up and seeing dozens, maybe hundreds, of these strange items in the sky. The report mentioned that these objects were seen emerging from two large cylindrical forms. The colors were vivid: blood red, dark black, and bluish hues. The broadsheet describes how some of these objects seemed to exhaust themselves in this aerial skirmish and then fell to earth outside the city, producing a significant amount of smoke. As if that wasn't enough, the account also mentions a large, black, spear-like object appearing in the sky. The woodcut illustration accompanying the news article visually depicts this chaotic scene, showing these different shapes in the sky over the town. At the time, such an event was often interpreted through a religious lens, perhaps as a divine warning or a sign from God. The broadsheet itself leans towards this kind of interpretation, reflecting the beliefs of the period. We have the physical broadsheet. We have the words written down by Hans Glaser. We have the illustration. These are the facts of what was reported and recorded. What those people in Nuremberg actually saw, what those shapes truly were, and what really happened in the sky that spring morning over 450 years ago, well, that remains part of Nuremberg's very strange history. Number 11. The Foo Fighters of World War II. During the height of World War II, pilots from both Allied and Axis forces began reporting something truly bizarre in the skies, something that wasn't an enemy aircraft they recognized. These weren't just isolated incidents. They were numerous enough to cause real concern and even official investigation. They called them Foo Fighters. Imagine being a pilot flying a mission in hostile territory, already on edge, and then seeing small glowing orbs or metallic-looking spheres suddenly appear near your aircraft. These objects were described as being bright, often red, orange, or white. They would sometimes appear singly, sometimes in groups. What made them particularly unsettling was their behavior. Pilots reported that these Foo Fighters could pace their aircraft, follow them, and perform maneuvers that seemed impossible for conventional aircraft of the time. They could change direction rapidly and fly at incredible speeds. The first widespread reports started coming in around November 1944, particularly from pilots of the U.S. 415th Night Fighter Squadron operating in Europe. They described these lights as blatant tag with their planes. Despite their proximity and sometimes aggressive seating maneuvers, the Foo Fighters never displayed overtly hostile actions. They didn't fire, and they didn't attempt to collide with the aircraft. They also, strangely, didn't show up on airborne radar systems of the day, which only added to the mystery. Initially, Allied pilots suspected these were new German secret weapons, perhaps some kind of remote-controlled device designed to intimidate or gather intelligence. German and Japanese pilots also reported similar phenomena, suspecting them to be Allied secret weapons. So, both sides were seeing these things and blaming the other. But neither side seemed to be responsible for them. Official investigations were launched. The U.S. Army Air Forces commissioned studies to determine the nature of these Foo Fighters. Various explanations were considered, including misidentification of ordinary objects, St. Elmo's fire, a weather phenomenon, or even psychological effects of combat stress on pilots. However, none of these explanations fully accounted for all the reported characteristics, especially the consistent descriptions of controlled flight and high-speed maneuvers from experienced pilots. The mystery was pervasive enough that the term Foo Fighter entered the lexicon of the war. What these pilots encountered, these strange lights and objects that danced around their planes in the war-torn skies, remains an enigma of that global conflict. Number 10. The Battle of Los Angeles. Just a few months after the attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941, fear and tension were incredibly high along the west coast of the United States. People were on constant alert for enemy attacks. It was in this atmosphere, on the night of February 24th and into the early morning of February 25th, 1942, that the city of Los Angeles experienced something it would never forget. Air raid sirens wailed across the city. Total blackout was ordered, lights out everywhere. Then, the sky above Los Angeles erupted with the roar of anti-aircraft guns. 37th Coast Artillery Brigade began firing their .50 caliber machine guns and 12.8-pound anti-aircraft shells into the night. Over the course of about an hour, they expended around 1,440 rounds of ammunition. Searchlights frantically scanned the darkness, their beams converging on. Well, that was the big question. Initial reports claimed that unidentified aircraft had flown over the city. Eyewitness accounts from the ground described seeing objects, some small, some larger, caught in the searchlight beams. Some said they saw formations of objects. The newspapers the next day were filled with dramatic headlines, and even a famous photograph showing searchlight beams fixed on what appeared to be an object in the sky. But what was it? No enemy planes were shot down. No bombs were dropped on the city by any aircraft. The immediate aftermath was confusion. Secretary of the Navy Frank Knox held a press conference on February 25th and initially dismissed the incident as a false alarm and war nerves. However, the Army's Western Defense Command insisted that unidentified aircraft had indeed been over Los Angeles. Their story changed somewhat over time, later suggesting that meteorological balloons might have triggered the alert or that civilian pilots flying in violation of the blackout could have caused the confusion. The human cost of the battle was real, though not from enemy action. 3 civilians were killed in car accidents during the blackout, and 2 others died of heart attacks attributed to the stress of the hour-long barrage. Several buildings were damaged by friendly fire, with shrapnel from the Army's own shells falling back onto the city. Despite the official explanations, many people, including some who witnessed the event, were not convinced. The sheer volume of anti-aircraft fire, the duration of the event, and the eyewitness accounts of distinct objects in the sky fueled speculation for decades. Was it a case of mass hysteria? Were there really unknown objects over Los Angeles that night? The Battle of Los Angeles remains a bizarre and contentious episode, a night of chaos and gunfire aimed at an enemy that officially was never truly there. Number 9. The Fatima, Miracle of the Sun. On October 13, 1917, in a field known as Cova de Iria, near Fatima, Portugal, an extraordinary event was reported by a massive crowd of people. Estimates of the crowd size vary widely, from 30,000 to as many as 100,000 individuals. They had gathered because 3 young shepherd children had been predicting for months that a miracle would occur on this day. The day itself was reportedly dreary and rainy. Witnesses described the ground as muddy and the crowd as soaked. Then, according to numerous accounts, the rain stopped and the clouds parted. What happened next is what became known as the miracle of the sun. Many in the crowd reported seeing the sun appear as an opaque, spinning disk in the sky. It was said to be less bright than usual, allowing people to look directly at it without pain. Witnesses described the sun or disk as casting multicolored lights across the landscape, the clouds, and the people. Hues of yellow, blue, and violet were reported. Then, the disk was said to have danced or spun wildly. Perhaps the most dramatic part of the reported phenomenon was when the sun appeared to break free from its celestial position and zigzag or plummet towards the earth, causing immense fear among the onlookers, who thought it was the end of the world. Finally, it was said to have returned to its normal place in the sky. The entire event was reported to have lasted for about 10 minutes. One of the most curious details reported by many witnesses was that their previously rain-soaked clothes and the muddy ground were suddenly and inexplicably dry after the event. Not everyone in the crowd reported seeing the solar phenomena. Some stated they saw nothing unusual with the sun itself, though they might have witnessed the crowd's reaction. However, individuals miles away who were not part of the gathered crowd and unaware of the predicted miracle also reported unusual solar activity at that time. Newspaper reporters were present, and their accounts were published in the days following the event. Photographs taken that day show a large crowd looking upwards towards the sky. Catholic Church later declared the events at Fatima worthy of belief after a canonical inquiry. Secular commentators and researchers have proposed various alternative explanations, ranging from mass hallucination or psychological suggestion to optical effects caused by meteorological phenomena like a sundog or dust in the atmosphere. However, the consistency of many witness statements, the reported drying of clothes and ground, and the sheer scale of the reported event keep the miracle of the sun a subject of intense discussion and wonder. What tens of thousands of people saw, or believed they saw, in the sky that day remains one of history's most intriguing mass sightings. Number 8. The Tunguska event. Imagine an explosion so powerful it flattens an estimated 80 million trees over an area of 2,150 square kilometers, 830 square miles. That's larger than the city of Tokyo. This happened on the morning of June 30th, 1908, near the Podkamenaya Tunguska River, in a remote part of Siberia, Russia. Yet, when expeditions finally reached the isolated site years later, they found no impact crater. Witnesses in the sparsely populated region some hundreds of kilometers away described a column of bluish light nearly as bright as the sun, moving across the sky. This was followed by a flash, a sound like artillery fire, and a powerful shockwave that knocked people off their feet and broke windows hundreds of kilometers away. The sound was described by some as a bang or a roar, and it was accompanied by tremors in the ground. For several nights following the event, the skies over Asia and Europe were unusually bright, with reports of people being able to read newspapers outdoors at midnight due to the white nights or bright nights. This atmospheric glow was observed as far away as the British Isles. Seismic stations across Eurasia recorded the shock waves from the explosion. Atmospheric pressure waves were detected by barographs around the world, some instruments even recording them circling the Earth twice. The energy released by the event has been estimated to be equivalent to 10 to 15 megatons of TNT, which is about 1,000 times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. The first scientific expedition to the site was led by Russian mineralogist Leonid Kulik in 1927, nearly 2 decades after the event. His team discovered the vast area of flattened trees, all lying in a radial pattern, pointing away from a central point. Trees at the very center were still standing, but were stripped of their branches and bark, looking like telegraph poles. Despite extensive searches by Kulik and subsequent expeditions, no fragments of a meteorite and no impact crater were ever found. This lack of a crater is one of the biggest puzzles of the Tunguska event. Prevailing scientific hypothesis is that the explosion was caused by the airburst of a meteoroid or comet fragment at an altitude of 5 to 10 kilometers, 3 to 6 miles above the Earth's surface. The object would have disintegrated in the atmosphere, causing a superheated shockwave that resulted in the widespread destruction on the ground. However, the exact nature and composition of the Tunguska body are still debated. The remoteness of the location and the lack of direct physical evidence from the object itself have made it difficult to draw definitive conclusions. Tunguska event remains the largest impact event on Earth in recorded history, a stark reminder of cosmic forces and a mystery that continues to fascinate scientists and the public alike. Number 7. The WOW signal. On the night of August 15, 1977, something extraordinary happened at the Ohio State University's Big Ear Radio Telescope. This telescope was engaged in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, the SETI program, scanning the skies for radio signals that might indicate intelligent life beyond Earth. That night, it detected a signal so unusual, so unlike anything typically received, that it caused quite a stir. Astronomer Jerry R. Raymond was volunteering for the project, reviewing the reams of computer printout data from the telescope a few days after the signal was recorded. As he looked through the columns of Anacol characters representing signal intensities, one particular sequence jumped out at him. It was a burst of radio waves that was incredibly strong and appeared to have come from deep space. Stunned by what he saw, Aman circled the sequence on the printout and wrote "WOW" in the margin. And so, the WOW signal got its name. What made this signal so special? First, it was very strong. The signal was recorded as being up to 30 times louder than the average background noise of deep space. Second, it was a narrowband signal, meaning it was concentrated at a specific frequency around 1420.4556 megahertz. This frequency is significant because it's very close to the hydrogen line, 1420.4058 mHz, a natural frequency emitted by hydrogen atoms, the most common element in the universe. Scientists have long theorized that an advanced alien civilization might use this frequency for interstellar communication, thinking it a logical universal marker. The signal lasted for the full 72 seconds that the Big Ear telescope was able to observe it. This duration was determined by the way the telescope scanned the sky. It had a fixed observation window, and any celestial source would pass through that window in 72 seconds as the Earth rotated. The signal's intensity rose and fell precisely as expected for a signal coming from an extraterrestrial source being scanned by the telescope. It appeared to originate from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius, near a star group called Chi Sagittaria. Despite the excitement, The WOW signal has never been detected again. Astronomers, including Eamon and others, have pointed radio telescopes towards that same patch of sky many times over the years, hoping to catch a repeat. Nothing similar has ever been found. Numerous explanations have been proposed for the signal over the decades, ranging from terrestrial interference to previously unknown natural astronomical phenomena. Some suggestions included signals from Earth reflecting off space debris or emissions from comets. However, none of these have been able to fully account for all the specific characteristics of the WOW signal, particularly its strength and narrowband nature at that specific frequency. It remains a one-off, a tantalizing blip in the cosmic static, a 72-second mystery from the stars. Number 6. The Phoenix Lights. On the evening of Thursday, March 13, 1997, thousands of people across the state of Arizona, and even in parts of Nevada and the Mexican state of Sonora, witnessed something truly extraordinary in the night sky. The event, or rather series of events, became known as the Phoenix Lights, and it remains one of the largest and most compelling mass UFO sightings in history. There were essentially two distinct sets of observations reported that night. The first involved a massive, V-shaped or boomerang-shaped object, or a formation of lights seen slowly and silently gliding across the sky between about 7:30 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. MST. This object was described as being enormous. Some witnesses estimated it to be up to a mile wide. Reportedly passed over a 300-mile corridor, starting from the Nevada border, moving southeast over Prescott and Phoenix, and then towards Tucson. Witnesses consistently described it as having a number of large lights, possibly 5 or 7, and being dark enough to block out the stars behind it. It moved without making any sound. Many people, from families in their backyards to pilots in the air, reported seeing this colossal craft. The second event occurred later, around 10 p.m., over the city of Phoenix itself. This involved a series of stationary bright orange or amber lights seen in a line or arc formation, hovering over the Gila River area. These lights were filmed and photographed by numerous people. The public reaction was immense. Phone lines to news stations, police departments, and aviation authorities were flooded with calls. The military initially stated they had no aircraft in the area. Later, the Arizona Air National Guard offered an explanation for the 10 p.m. lights, stating that they were slow-falling, high-intensity LUU-2B illumination flares dropped by a 10 Warthog aircraft on a training exercise at the Barry M. Goldwater Range. This explanation, however, did not satisfy many witnesses, particularly those who saw the earlier massive V-shaped object. They insisted that what they saw was a structured craft, not individual flares, and that it moved cohesively and silently. One of the most notable witnesses to the V-shaped object was the then governor of Arizona, Fife Symington III. He initially mocked the incident at a press conference, bringing an aide dressed as an alien. However, years later, in 2007, Symington publicly stated that he too had witnessed a huge delta-shaped craft silently navigating the skies over Phoenix that night. He said he was mystified, and that it was otherworldly. He also criticized the Air Force for their handling of the situation and their flare explanation, which he felt did not fit what he and many others had seen. Despite numerous eyewitness testimonies, photographs, and video footage, no definitive, universally accepted explanation for the V-shaped object has ever been provided. The Phoenix Lights event continues to be a subject of intense debate and fascination. A night when the skies over Arizona presented a profound mystery to thousands of observers. The Marfa Lights. Deep in the high desert of West Texas, near the small town of Marfa, a peculiar and persistent mystery has been unfolding for well over a century. These are the Marfa lights, also sometimes called the Marfa ghost lights. People report seeing mysterious glowing orbs that appear in the night sky over Mitchell Flat, an area southeast of the town. What do these lights look like? Descriptions vary. Witnesses often speak of seeing distant lights that can be white, yellow, orange, red, or even blue or green. They are typically reported as being about the size of a basketball or beach ball. Their behavior is what makes them particularly strange. These lights are said to appear and disappear, hover in place, dart around, split into two or more lights, merge back together, or move at high speeds. Sometimes they appear in groups, sometimes alone. They don't seem to make any sound. Reports of these mysterious lights date back to the 19th century. Native Americans in the area had legends about them. The first widely recorded account by a settler was by a young cowhen named Robert Reed Ellison in 1883, who saw flickering lights while driving cattle and wondered if they were Apache campfires. He was told by other settlers that they often saw the lights, but they found no ashes or other evidence of campfires when they investigated. Over the decades, countless people, including locals, tourists, and researchers, have witnessed the Marfa lights. An official Marfa Lights viewing area was established 9 miles east of town on U.S. Route 9067, offering a panoramic view of Mitchell Flat, where the lights are most often reported. Naturally, there has been much speculation and investigation into what causes these lights. Skeptical explanations are common. Many suggest that the lights are simply misidentified atmospheric phenomena, such as temperature inversions, creating mirages or reflections of distant vehicle headlights from U.S. Route 67, which runs through the area. Studies conducted by groups like the Society of Physics, students at the University of Texas at Dallas in 2004 did find that some, if not many, of the lights observed from the viewing area could be reliably correlated with automobile headlights. However, these explanations don't satisfy everyone, nor do they account for all historical reports, especially those predating cars and the specific highway routes. Some witnesses insist that the lights they've seen behave in ways that car headlights simply cannot, like hovering for long periods, shooting up into the sky, or performing intricate maneuvers. Some reports come from areas where line of sight to the highway is blocked. The mystery of the Marfa lights persists, drawing curious visitors to the Texas desert, all hoping to catch a glimpse of these enigmatic illuminations. Number 4. The Hesdalen Lights. In the remote Hesdalen Valley in central Norway, a strange and beautiful light show has been captivating residents and scientists for decades. These aren't just fleeting flickers. The Hesdalen lights are a recurring, well-documented phenomenon involving unexplained aerial lights of various shapes, colors, and behaviors. Reports of unusual lights in the valley go back at least to the 1940s. However, the phenomenon gained significant attention in the winter of 1981 to 1982, when there was a period of intense activity, with lights appearing as often as 15 to 20 times per week. This prompted serious scientific interest. What do people see? The lights vary greatly. Some are described as strong white or blue-white flashes that appear and disappear in seconds. Others are more persistent, glowing yellow or red balls of light that can float slowly through the valley, remain stationary for minutes, or even for over an hour. Sometimes they move at incredible speeds. They can appear high in the sky, close to the ground, or even seem to follow the contours of the terrain. Witnesses have reported lights that are spherical, oval, or even more complex in shape. Some appear to be solid and structured, while others are more diffuse and ethereal. In 1983, a group of Norwegian engineers and physicists launched Project Hesdalen to study the lights. They set up observation camps and used a variety of scientific instruments, including cameras, video recorders, radar, magnetometers, spectrum analyzers, and Geiger counters. An automatic measurement station was later installed in the valley in 1998, operated by Ostfold University College, which continues to monitor the area. Over the years, these investigations have managed to capture numerous instances of the lights on film and gather instrumental data. Radar has sometimes tracked objects at the same time. Lights were visually observed or recorded by cameras. Spectrographic analysis of some of the lights has been performed, yielding information about their chemical composition, though the results have often been puzzling or inconclusive, sometimes showing elements common in the local environment, but not explaining the light emission itself. Despite decades of research, there is no single, universally accepted explanation that covers all the different types of light phenomena observed in Hessdalen. Numerous hypotheses have been proposed, ranging from misidentified known objects, like aircraft or car headlights, though the valley is remote and many sightings don't fit these, to unusual atmospheric or geological processes. Some theories involve plasmas, piezoelectricity generated by stresses in the local rocks, or even combustion of airborne dust containing elements like scandium. Each hypothesis might explain some sightings, but none seems to explain all of them. The Hessdalen lights continue to be a genuine scientific puzzle, a natural laboratory for studying unexplained luminous phenomena. Number 3. Skyquakes. Imagine hearing a loud boom like distant cannon fire or a sonic boom. On a perfectly clear day with no storms in sight and no obvious source for the sound. This is the experience of people who hear skyquakes, a mysterious auditory phenomenon reported from various parts of the world for centuries. They go by many local names: Seneca, guns, around Lake Seneca and Lake Cayuga in New York State, Barisal guns in the Ganges Delta of Bangladesh and India, Bronchidae, thunder-like sounds. In Italy, mist poofers, fog belches in coastal regions of Belgium and the Netherlands, and retumbos, rumbles in parts of Latin America. The sounds are typically described as deep rumbles or concussive booms, similar to thunder or explosions. Sometimes they are singular events, other times they occur in a series. In some cases, these unexplained noises are powerful enough to rattle windows and shake the ground, leading people to believe an earthquake or a large explosion has occurred nearby. Yet, investigations often turn up no evidence of either. What makes skyquakes so puzzling is their apparent lack of a clear origin. People hear them, sometimes quite distinctly, but cannot pinpoint where they are coming from. They often seem to emanate from the sky or from a distance over water, which is why many reports come from coastal areas or near large lakes. Numerous explanations have been proposed over the years, varying by region and by the specific characteristics of the reported sounds. Meteors entering the atmosphere and exploding, bolides, or even distant avalanches or rockfalls. Human-caused sources are also often considered, such as sonic booms from military aircraft, though reports predate supersonic flight and occur in areas with no known flight activity, quarrying or mining explosions, or artillery fire from military exercises. While these can explain some instances, they don't account for the historical reports or the occurrences in remote areas far from such activities. Despite these many potential explanations, no single cause has been identified that can account for all skyquake reports worldwide. Often, local investigations into specific booming events end inconclusively. The sounds are real. People hear them, and sometimes they are even recorded by seismometers or infrasound detectors. But what exactly creates these phantom booms that echo across landscapes and through history remains an intriguing auditory mystery. Number 2. The Taus. Hum. Imagine a persistent, low-frequency humming or buzzing sound that you can hear, but others around you can't. a sound that causes annoyance, disrupts sleep, and for some leads to more severe symptoms like headaches, nausea, dizziness, and nosebleeds. This is the reality for a small percentage of residents in and around Taos, New Mexico, who are hearers of what has become known as the Taos hum. The phenomenon gained widespread attention in the early 1990s, although reports of similar unexplained low-frequency noises have come from other parts of the world, including Bristol, England, the Bristol hum, and Bondi, Australia, the Bondi hum. In Taos, it's estimated that about 2% of the population can hear the hum. These individuals often describe it as a diesel engine idling in the distance, or a faint, deep throbbing or whirring. It's typically more noticeable indoors and during quieter times, like at night. What makes the Taos hum particularly baffling is that its source has never been definitively identified, despite several investigations. In 1993, a team of researchers from the University of New Mexico, Los Alamos National Laboratory, and Sandia National Laboratories conducted a study involving interviews with hearers and attempts to measure the sound. They used sensitive acoustic equipment, but were unable to detect any single identifiable sound source that could account for the hum reported by all hearers. Some hearers could point to a general direction from which the sound seemed to originate, but these directions were not consistent among all participants. The investigators did note that some hearers seemed to have unusually sensitive hearing in the very low frequency range, below 100 Hz, or even in the infrasound range, below 20 Hz, which is generally inaudible to humans but can sometimes be felt. Some research has suggested that the hum might be related to tinnitus, ringing in the ears, but many hearers insist the sound is external, not internal, and they often don't exhibit the typical hearing loss associated with tinnitus. Others have pointed out that the hum seems to be localized. Hearers can sometimes move out of an area where they perceive it and find relief. Various theories have been proposed over the years, ranging from industrial equipment in the area, though no specific source has been confirmed as the culprit, high-pressure gas lines, power lines, low-frequency electromagnetic radiation. Some have even speculated about secret military experiments. The fact that only a small portion of the population can hear it adds another layer of complexity. Is it a real external sound that only some can perceive due to heightened sensitivity? Or is it an internal perception with an unknown trigger? Taos hum remains a persistent and perplexing auditory puzzle, a source of ongoing discomfort for those who hear it, and a fascinating mystery for researchers. Number 1. The bloop. In the summer of 1997, deep in the southern Pacific Ocean, hydrophones, underwater microphones, operated by the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, detected a sound unlike anything they had ever recorded before. This sound was incredibly powerful, extremely low frequency, and it was dubbed the bloop. The sound was picked up by multiple sensors across a vast expanse of the ocean, some over 5,000 kilometers, 3,000 miles, apart. This wide detection range indicated that its source must have been extraordinarily loud. The bloop's acoustic signature was also unique. It was an ultra-low frequency sound that rose in frequency over about 1 minute before fading away. It had a distinct blooping quality, hence its name. What made the bloop particularly intriguing was its sheer volume. Scientists at NOAA initially stated that it was far louder than any known animal sound, including the calls of the blue whale, which is the loudest animal on Earth. Its sound profile did bear some resemblance to vocalizations made by living creatures, but its amplitude was many times greater than even the most powerful biological sounds ever recorded. This led to a lot of speculation about what colossal unknown creature could possibly generate such a noise. The location of the bloop's origin was triangulated to a remote point in the South Pacific, west of the southern tip of South America. Coordinates roughly 50 degs, 100 deg. This area is quite deep and not particularly well explored. For years, the mystery of the bloop captured public imagination. Was it a giant squid, an undiscovered species of massive whale, or something else entirely? NOAA continued to monitor deep-sea sounds. Over time, as more data was collected and analyzed on various underwater sounds, including those generated by ice phenomena, a different perspective emerged. OA later stated that the acoustic signature of the bloop bore strong similarities to the sounds produced by large icebergs calving, breaking off from glaciers, or cracking and fracturing. These events, known as icequakes, can generate powerful low-frequency sounds that travel vast distances through water. The agency suggested that the sound was most likely consistent with such ice-related events. However, the initial mystery and the sheer power of the sound as first reported have kept the bloop in the realm of curious, unexplained phenomena for many. The fact that it was initially described as louder than any known animal, and its unique profile, continues to fuel discussions, while the icequake explanation is the one provided by NOAA. Based on further analysis of similar acoustic events, the raw power and initial bafflement surrounding the bloop ensure its place as one of the most fascinating and talked about unexplained sounds ever detected in the deep ocean.